I keep 3 times taped to the bottom of my monitor. 2113, 2125, 2137. They're not passwords, not birthdays, not lottery numbers. They're the minutes Phoenix forgot to breathe the night a 300-foot craft crossed a slice of sky I've watched for most of my adult life. If you came for proof, you'll meet a different kind. 5 numbers, 1 radio phrase, and a hole, 12 seconds wide, that you can try to find in public recordings if you're careful. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to say what it felt like when the seconds didn't behave. This is a personal account and an opinion. Nothing here is meant to send you anywhere you're not allowed to go. If you look up anything I mention, use legal public sources only. And if you start to feel that pressure in your ears while you're listening, the hush before a monsoon or the quiet inside a church, just say my phrase softly. It helps, until it doesn't. I was 38 the night it happened, and I was too practical to call it happening. Nights in Phoenix teach you discipline. The heat doesn't forgive. The air shimmers. Jets from Luke AFB write hard angles west of the city, while inbound traffic to Sky Harbor threads stars that loop like cursive. I'd worked enough mid-shifts to know which pilot said good evening with a smile you could hear, and which one said it like a checklist item. The desert turns you into a metronome. On my desk, a cup growing a ring, a stack of sticky notes, and a post-it that said confirm clock source. It's an ordinary line, the kind you see in technical manuals next to acronyms that mean more to the equipment than to you. Confirm clock source. I'd written it weeks earlier after a timing drift on a screen that wasn't supposed to drift. I didn't think I was writing a prayer. My mother had left me a voicemail that afternoon. She never calls during my nights. She knows my schedule the way people know the sound of their own car. She said, I woke up at 9:13 and thought of you. That's all, I saved it. I didn't think about it until later, when every 13 felt like a thumb pressing into my ribs. The first oddity wasn't visual. It was absence. A sliver of airspace southwest of South Mountain should have been alive. Recreational flights, night training, the silver thread of I-10 humming below. Instead, it felt like somebody had pressed a soft palm over the city's mouth. The noise floor dipped. Radios clipped mid-syllable and then came back with everyone talking over everyone. Then an echo without a transponder slipped into the scope. It didn't ping like traffic. It blocked like weather and moved like intention. Verify track, someone said. Confirm clock source, I answered without thinking, and the words tasted like chlorine. We cross-check time all the time, but saying it then felt like checking the part of the universe that keeps the lights on. The 5 numbers started lining up on their own. I wrote them because that's what I do when I'm afraid I'll remember wrong. 4,700, 095, 40, 12's S of South Mountain. They weren't neutral to me. Altitude, about 4,700. Heading, roughly east by southeast, call it 095. Speed, 40 knots to 0 and back like breath. The gap, 12 seconds where stamp time hiccuped. Position, south of the ridge, north of the comfort of calling it just city lights. I radioed with a voice I didn't recognize as mine. Calm, clipped, professional. Pilots started stepping on each other. Do you have a primary at 2 o'clock, Lo? Negative. Wait, yes, negative. Lights 3, maybe 4, no strobe. Altitude? Unk. Say again? Unk. I logged like my fingers belonged to someone who could be sued later. Observed interference. Possible non-cooperative target. Non-standard behavior. Recommend additional verification. All bland words for a thing that stole adjectives. At 2113, the room's hum changed. The air felt thick, like there was weather that only nerves could see. A coffee spoon on a saucer stopped its shimmer mid-vibration, as if the sound in it had been told to hush. Confirm clock source, I said again. Someone on frequency laughed and repeated it like a joke. Then he said he was kidding. Then he didn't say anything else for a full breath. The building has a door to a balcony that's more a ledge than a place to stand. On breaks, I step out there and watch the city glow like a constellation that never learned to leave the ground. That night, 30 minutes into something I couldn't name, I left my station and took my 10. If you've ever needed to feel outside air to keep your brain from folding in on itself, you know the impulse. The heat hit my face like a blanket from a dryer. The desert was a body that hadn't cooled down yet. From the ledge, I could trace Camelback's silhouette, the airport's runway lights in perfect beads, and a streak of traffic on I-10. I've always loved that line, red abroad, white toward home. It's the piece of Phoenix you can frame with thumb and forefinger and pretend you can hold steady. To the south, over the dark humps of South Mountain Park, 3 lights arranged themselves into something that refused to be called a triangle, and yet was. They weren't bright. They were present. The way a streetlight makes a circle on asphalt, not by shining, but by insisting. No strobe, no beacon. The space between them wasn't emptiness. It was something, a surface without edges. A negative space that forced the world around it to redraw. Speeds aren't supposed to do what I watched. You don't go from 40 to 0 in the sky without the air making a religion out of you. But the craft, if I allow myself that word, did not slow like a thing that respects lift. It decided to not move, and the world shrugged to accommodate. Below, a motorcycle on the I-10 crossed a section of road where the distance between 2 exit signs is exactly what it is, has always been. The rider's visor caught the city in a foxed mirror of yellow and white. His head turned, a tiny motion you only notice if you've trained yourself to watch for rotation. Then the bike, the visor, the river of cars. They paused. I could feel the pause. Not like a blackout or a skipped beat. More like the frame before a long blink when a camera captures motion and the world holds still for you to catch up. 12 seconds isn't long when you don't need them. 12 seconds is brutal when you watch them not exist. My breath didn't belong to me for the first 3 seconds. On the 4th, I said the phrase in my head. On the 5th, I said it aloud. Confirm clock source. On the 6th, someone on the radio said it too. Not to me, not playing along. Like the phrase had been upgraded from a question to a command. The craft flickered. Or I did. If you love certainty, I can give you this. My analog wristwatch. An heirloom I wear because my mother says time behaves better when it ticks where you can feel it. Lagged 12 seconds behind the wall clock when those seconds restarted. Digital displays marched forward like little soldiers. The analog one stood like a child who refuses to follow and then jogs to catch up, panting. When the freeway resumed its crawl, the visor showed a sky whose lights didn't line up with the lights above it. The rider didn't notice. Why would he? He had 12 seconds back he didn't know he'd lost. I wanted to tell the room. I wanted to announce I'd witnessed time be told to wait. But the voice that would have spoken was my professional voice. And it knows not to use words that don't exist in the handbook. So I wrote what I could write. Observed anomaly, suspected timing offset, recommend verifying clocks. Bland, again. Accurate, again. There is a way pilots talk when they think the frequency is crowded with strangers. It's careful, polite, empty of personality. There is also a way they talk when they feel alone with you above a city that hums. That night, a voice I knew from a dozen clean approaches turned low and young. I've got 3 lights south of us, he said. They look dim, like you'd squint if you wanted to see them more. Any movement? Came the reply. They're not moving. And that's the weird part. They're not hovering. It's like the sky around them forgot what wind is. No one said UFO. Not because we don't say the word. We do. Off mic. In the way people say ghost at a sleepover knowing they'll laugh. But because any label would have been an admission that the word was more about us than the thing. A different pilot whispered, "My clock's just jumped." Another said, "Confirm clock source," and then apologized, as though he'd told a joke at a funeral. I wrote my 5 numbers bigger on the post-it. Alt 43700, HDG 095, SPD 40040, DT 12s, PAS of South Mountain. The 5 numbers felt like handles on a door. If you've ever tried to do math in a dream, you know what I mean when I say they gave me a way to stay awake in whatever this was. The craft began a slow drift north, toward where Sky Harbor keeps its arteries. I could feel the room tense the way a room tenses when the subject everyone avoids walks in. The vector it traced crossed a pattern of approaches as if it had the right of way over the entire idea of arrival. Deviations available, someone offered, voice dry. Say intentions. It didn't say anything. How could it? It didn't belong to our verbs. I stepped out again. Not because there was anything I could do outside, but because the body sometimes needs a witness other than a screen. From the South Mountain lookout I love, sometime after my shift officially ended and officially I was on a drive to clear my head, The valley spread beneath me like a copper tray catching light. I wish I could tell you I was brave. I was tired, and tired brains do brave adjacent things. Up there, the sound dies in a way you only notice when you're listening for it. The city's buzz becomes a high note you forget you're hearing. That night, the note faltered. Somewhere between 21:25 and 21:37, the craft halted again. The 12 seconds stretched not longer but deeper. I felt them open like an elevator stopping between floors. You don't fall. You don't rise. You just hang in a box designed for motion while your body writes a letter to gravity about expectations. I held my wristwatch to my ear. Tick, tick, tick. And the ticks complied. Then didn't. Then clicked in a hurry as if embarrassed by their lapse. Confirm clock source, I told myself, because the words had become a rope I could hold. From the lookout, the craft was large enough to deny my brain the comfort of calling it anything we make. 3 points insisted on each other, but the darkness stitched between them was the presence. I didn't see surface. I saw refusal. I've never liked the way stories like this end. They either vanish into certainty without evidence, or they drown in detail without shape. Here's my shape. The craft didn't leave dramatically. It simply wasn't where it had been, and then it wasn't anywhere that my eyes could claim. The hum returned. The spoon vibrated on the saucer in my memory as if it had always been moving. Thank you. Pilot said nothing. One cleared to land with a voice that tried too hard to sound like nothing had happened. When I got home, my mother had called again. The message said, "I woke up at 9:37, I'm fine." She's not an anxious woman. She's the kind of person who times her recipes to the minute. She had never left me 2 voicemails in a day. I saved that one too. The days after were administrative and strange. An envelope with a letter that wasn't a gag order and wasn't not one. Advisories have a tone. They remind you of your responsibilities without offering to share theirs. I won't repeat the language. It was careful. It said nothing about discipline and everything about discretion. It used the word incident and asked for my notes, which I produced with all the bland exactness I could manage. It didn't use the word silence. It didn't have to. A colleague went to training. He sent a photo from an airport that didn't look like any airport locals fly out of, then stopped posting. If you assume melodrama there, resist it. People take jobs, people move, people ghost. I'm telling you, he said he'd be back Monday, and Monday learned to be Tuesday, and then Tuesday didn't make promises. The ring of my phone changed. Not the ringtone, the kind of call. Once a week, always Wednesday, always after dark. A unknown caller hung for 12 seconds and then either ended or never began. No message, not even the courtesy of a pocket dial's fumbling noises. Just the hold. Just the weight of being rung at. I still wear the analog watch. It behaves until it doesn't. Twice a month it will lag. 12 seconds. Not 11. Not 13. Digital time rolls on and mocks it. There are public feeds that archive the city's heartbeat. ATIS recordings. ADS-B data. Videos shot from dashboards by drivers who didn't expect to capture anything but their own impatience. If you go looking for a jump in a timestamp or a glitch in a frame, don't trespass into systems that don't belong to you. Don't DM strangers for raw files. Don't ask me to publish times that could send you down roads that aren't yours to drive. If you do your own research, be gentle with it. If you think you find a spot where the seconds don't stack, where a car moves and then the world remembers to let it, leave a single letter in the comments. Just Z, Zulu. The time we use when we want to agree about what the hour is anywhere on Earth. Don't say where. Don't post coordinates. Don't try to fix the clock. The clock doesn't want to be fixed by us. People ask, careful in their phrasing, if the FAA forced my silence. I'm choosing my words too. I received guidance. I followed it. I am speaking where speaking is allowed. About feelings. About the experience of watching numbers misbehave. About the way a human brain reaches for a phrase to make the room stop tilting. Confirm clock source. It's ordinary. It's nothing. It saved me that night the way a rail saves you when a subway shivers as it breaks. What did I track? A craft roughly 300 feet across by the geometry of what it eclipsed. Over Phoenix, between South Mountain and the freeway, and the approach paths like arteries. It moved like speed was an option, not a requirement. It made sound into cotton. It asked the minutes to wait in the hall. If you're expecting the plot twist where I reveal a serial number, a project name, or a retired friend who slips and tells me he's seen it too, no. My twist is quieter. A phrase that belongs to technicians became a spell. 5 numbers became handles. 12 seconds became a door that, once you've found it, you notice everywhere a little late. The aftermath isn't a chase. It's insomnia at 21:13, a watch that blushes over its mistakes, and a Wednesday call that never says hello. I won't embellish. I won't tell you a story about lights that split and merged like dolphins in the sky. I won't claim a mark on my skin or a blank hour I can't account for. I stood on a lookout where the city looks like a circuit board, and I watched motion be told to sit. That's all. That's too much. If you're awake tonight around those times and you hear your room press quiet, try my phrase. Not because it's magic, because it brings you back to the part of the world that still insists on order. If it helps you, I'm glad. If it doesn't, we were at least in the moment together. If you need something to do with your hands when the seconds feel slippery, write my 5 numbers. They are what I have to offer that doesn't trespass on anyone's gate or demand anyone's job. If your watch lags 12 seconds next week for no reason you can blame on the battery, tell me in 1 letter. Z. We'll be a little choir of Z's, a chorus of people who noticed. And if you're the writer, who crossed I-10 under a sky that forgot to move for a breath, this is me telling you that you were part of something you didn't need to understand to survive. Keep your visor clean. Keep your eyes on the road. If a light asks you to make sense of it, you're allowed to say no. I'm speaking now because silence wasn't helping me sleep. Because my mother keeps calling at times that trace the edge of what I saw. Because Phoenix is my home, and I don't like not naming the weather we live in. I'm not breaking laws, and I'm not asking anyone else to. I'm putting a shape around a night that didn't want one. Confirm clock source. The rest is a city still humming, a desert still holding heat, and a sky that knows things will never make sit still for a checklist. If anything in this kept you with me to the end, thank you. If you're new here, I tell stories about nights like this, about the parts of the world that flirt with the edge of what we pretend is normal. I keep it clean, I keep it careful, and I keep it honest as a person can when the seconds sometimes refuse to stack, and if you've met the 12-second door yourself, if you've felt the hush and had to talk yourself back with any phrase at all, leave. That Z, I'll be awake at 21:13, 21:25, and 21:37 reading,